What is going on, everyone? Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus. You may know me as Culture Shock. To the Blue Stable Podcast, we are back with another episode. Appreciate you guys for tuning in on all platforms. Appreciate the continuous support. Got a lot of news for you guys in the future, but the football season is almost here. It's right around the corner. Once again, we appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in on all platforms. Right now, we are live on YouTube and Twitter, but it will be posted later on Apple and everything else later on in the future tomorrow. So stay tuned for that and follow us on all platforms. But I am not here alone. I am with my guy here tonight. But you guys probably can hear it as of right now. But he is currently outside getting his cardio on. Shout out to him enjoying the beautiful weather. Landon, how we doing?
Doing fantastic, man. Like you said, out here doing cardio. We don't skip cardio. The summer shred is in full swing at the moment, so we're uh, we're doing great. Ready for training camp, I'll tell you that. I'm ready for some football. NBA is officially over. Nobody cares about baseball, so yeah, we're right around the corner of some football starting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to all the baseball supporters. It is what it is at the end of the day. Basketball season is over. Shout out to the Boston Celtics if you are Celtics fans out there. What a tremendous run. But we are talking about the Colts. Training camp is around the corner. Football is around the corner. It's almost here. We got Tom Brady on podcast. It's time to talk some football. But this episode is going to be a special one. We're going to hit a soft spot in Colts fans. Colts fans, we're going to go down memory lane. We're gonna share some favorite moments. We're gonna talk favorite players, all of these things, and then we're gonna have a what if question. A what if question is very popular, especially shout out to Marvel Studios. They had a what if episode, a saga. If you have not seen it, it is the best thing on television or Netflix, hands down, or Disney app. On the Disney app, hands down, is the best. So let's go ahead and hop into it. We're gonna start off with the favorite player. I think we can all attest to, we all probably have the same person. We may not, but I think we all have differences here. So I'm going to start uh, with my favorite player. My favorite player of all time is Bob Sanders. Of course, his run was a little bit towards the end of when I started really, really becoming a fan. At the beginning, it was like, I didn't really know. But once I started really getting the grasp of football, Bob Sanders was just happened to be that guy that always stood out to me. No matter what game, no matter what I did, even on Madden, it was like this dude was a beast. Defensive Player of the Year, Pro Bowler. This dude was a prototype safety. They called him the Sandman. They called him the Sandman. He erased. If you had issues, he was the guy that was going to clean it up. He was the cleanup man. He was just so good at what he did, and he was always in the discussions of best safeties when he was on the field and healthy. This dude was a dog, man, and he's the Super Bowl champion. Let's not forget. But Bob Sanders for sure is definitely my favorite player of all time in Colts history, especially if you're choosing on the defensive side. Offensive, I think you know where we're going here when we talk about Colts players of all time, but that's another discussion. But all in general, in total, my player for sure was definitely Bob Sanders. You guys let us know as well in the comment sections on any platform that you may be on listening to this. Who was your favorite Colts player of all time if you happen to be a Colts fan listening to this? Let us know, share your thoughts, and engage with us. I'm going to swing it over to Landon. Landon, who was your favorite Colts player of all time?
Man, so like the easy answer for probably most people is probably Peyton Manning, right? But as as much as I love old Peyton, my personal favorite player of all time is none other than Reggie Wayne. I'll tell you why. So years and years ago, many moons ago, my graduation gift from graduating high school was Colts tickets to a game from my parents. They're really good seats. Well, while I was at the game, I sat next to this wonderful woman the entire game. And we chatted all up and down. And about a few minutes into the conversation, I was telling her about how much I liked Reggie Wayne. It's like, yeah, other than Peyton, he's probably my favorite player on the team. Well, guess whose mother I was sitting next to? None other than Reggie Wayne's mom. And I got to sit next to her the entire game. She told me all kinds of stories about her son. It was just such a cool memory for me. And it really kind of cemented him as like he was already my favorite player going in. And then, like, what are the odds? I get to sit next and talk to his mother about, life and him and the game going on. It was actually against the Titans, so you already know we won that game. Uh, I believe it was actually a Sunday night football game, and we were up by like 4 touchdowns at halftime against the Titans. So it was over quick, like per usual against the Titans. And
Amen.
so another cool thing about that. So afterwards, she said, "Okay, game's over. It's been wonderful talking to you. Would you like to come meet him?" I was like, "Of course. Like, are you kidding me?" So she took me back to the family area of the game in Nissan Stadium, where all the players meet after the game with their families and stuff. She took me in there with her, and I got all kinds of autographs. Dallas Clark, Dwight Freeney, Reggie Wayne, you know, even Peyton Manning was there, and Archie and Olivia Manning were there too. And I got to see them, and I got Peyton's autograph, and it was just like the ultimate experience. I can't tell you how cool it was. And so for that reason, my favorite player of all time is not only Reggie Wayne, but Reggie Wayne's mother. Thank you so much for the coolest day that's ever happened to me. And yeah, that's my little story about why Reggie's my favorite player.
That's awesome, man. Like it's moments like that, it not only does it make me jealous, but I'm also happy that I get to be in, in conversation with someone that have a moment like that to share
Yeah,
with
and see,
me.
like
That's just awesome.
it's such a small like gesture that like this was so long ago. And so like this is probably like 20 years ago, right? Well, not quite, but along that lines. And so it's just like a small thing. Like they probably wouldn't even remember it. Like they wouldn't remember who I am or anything like that. But that's something that'll stick with me for the rest of my life. And it's so cool that players can provide those type of moments to where it might just be a chance interaction with for them. And they see so many people throughout the years, like Anthony Richardson, for example. Whenever we were at the draft, Anthony Richardson wouldn't recognize me from some dude he sees in Trader Joe's. He'd have no idea. But one of the things I'll cherish for the rest of my life is after he was drafted, being back there in the room and getting to tell him, "Welcome to Indianapolis." And this was like right after he was drafted, so like we're probably like one of like the first people in the entire world to probably tell him, "Welcome to Indianapolis." And he'd never remember it, but it's something that I'll take with me for the rest of my life. And it's just little moments like that that just really solidify like why we love this team, why we do what we do, and just it has a chance to like have a lasting impact on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I told him right after that moment, I said, "You better not ever wash that hand ever again," because he literally shook hands with Richardson, and I was just like, and I was about to do it. The guy said, "We gotta go," because he had to go catch the plane. He had to go meet with Ursay and management and all of that. I was like, "There's no way." Like Richardson was literally right here in my face, and this dude was like some type of cyborg or freak of nature. He's so tall and massive,
Yeah, I was gonna say he wasn't.
treacherous,
It may
well.
like his chest was maybe like right here. He was way up here.
He was way up there in his chest. I was like literally right here. It was a crazy moment. I don't know. I don't know. We were literally that whole moment down there at the draft. We were at places we weren't supposed to be at, but I mean, it was a moment we loved because like when the Seahawks drafted the wide receiver, we were literally right there with his family. He was taking photos down there in the media row. They was like, you're not supposed to be here." He was like, "Oops, my bad." And we just wound up leaving. We could have got kicked out, but we didn't. But it was awesome, man. It was an awesome moment, and I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Definitely, definitely one of my favorite players as well, Reggie Wayne. Like how can you not like him? This dude was one of the best players in college, and definitely one of the best players in football history, especially Colts history, man. What a very special talent, man. He was really good. Like if you don't know who Reggie Wayne is, his highlights are somewhere out there on YouTube. It's a lot of one hand grabs. I'm just gonna give you a mention to that, but that dude was very good. Like route running,
I mean,
everything.
there's
Like you
a
name it.
there's a reason why he's the coach now.
Exactly. Like if you want to learn anything, you want to learn from Reggie Wayne for sure, man. But definitely was a special talent and Super Bowl champion as well. So shout out to Reggie Wayne. Get him in the Hall of Fame eventually. But let's go ahead and move to the next topic of discussion. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to do. Let's do the what if question. I like this one. The what if question is definitely something we all will not have the same answer, I guarantee. So the what if question is, if you could change one thing in Colts franchise history, what would it be? I'm gonna let you go first because I know mine's gonna be pretty hilarious, but I know yours is gonna be funny too. But let me hear.
Well, there's so many choices because we have, you know, the Andrew Luck retiring thing. That's probably going to be the answer for most people, which is completely understandable. I made the funny comment, you know, what if Nick Harper's wife didn't stab him, during the Pitts before the Pittsburgh game? Because he probably takes that back. The Colts probably win the Super Bowl that year. Many years. That's still the best Colts team I've ever seen. Was that 05, 04, 05 team, and they ended up winning it the year after that. But it's just. But in all honesty, this is going to kind of like, and this isn't some hindsight 2020 thing. This is what I thought at the time, even many moons ago. Cutting Peyton Manning. If I could change anything that's ever happened, the Colts would never have cut Peyton Manning. And I don't have some, you know, great explanation as to why, other than this is going to sound like conspiracy theorist. But from that moment on, the moment the Colts cut Peyton Manning, me and my friend Jared, who's on the other show with me, we've said this for years now. It put a curse on this franchise. It's it's the curse is what we always call it. And from the moment they cut him, this franchise had a curse on him. It's like the Red Sox and getting rid of Babe Ruth and let him go to the Yankees. The Red Sox for years had a curse on them. It's kind of the same thing. That's what we always liken it to. So if I could change one thing, I probably still would have drafted Luck, but uh, I just want to cut Peyton, man. I want to cut Peyton, and he would have retired a Colt. Probably had a few good years left in him for sure. Obviously, we know due to the Denver days, but uh, he would have never worn another uniform if I could change anything that's happened in this franchise's history.
I agree. That moment was it's still like I still don't understand the process. I understand it's a business at the end of the day. Most organizations like the Colts do things like this. And a lot of Colts, Peyton Manning is not the only player that's in the Ring of Honor or, Colts Hall of Fame that, wind up going to other teams. It's just so unfortunate that he left and won another Super Bowl in another jersey with one of the best defenses I've ever seen as well. But it wasn't just the defense. He out there, he made wide receivers that didn't have a chance have a chance. Like guys like Demarius Thomas. Shout out to them. Like those guys. That
Oh,
Broncos team was just amazing.
Demarius Thomas definitely had a chance. He was really good. Wes Welker, obviously, we saw what he did with Brady, and then what he did with Manning after he left New England, and Eric Decker, another one, Julius Thomas. Like they had some real talent at the skill position left, but man, he he still had so much left. And I know at the time it was, we don't know if he'll ever throw a football. He can't even, squeeze a ball, at the time. And you're sitting there and you have, according to me, probably many others, the best quarterback prospect that's ever graced this earth, ever graced this sport. I put him as number one, even above Elway, above Manning, all of them. Andrew Luck, the single greatest college quarterback prospect I've ever seen. Um, so yeah, I mean it's obvious, right? I mean it makes perfect sense to do what they did. I 100% understand it. This is just me personally. I still would have taken Luck. I would have let him set 2 or 3 years behind Manning, and then whenever Manning hangs it up in 2015, after 2015, hopefully the team's ready to take off with Andrew Luck, and maybe we get the Patrick Mahomes thing where Mahomes sets for a year, and which I mean, as much as I love Mahomes and he was a top 10 pick for a reason, he's a really good player. Even he wasn't the caliber of prospect Andrew Luck was. I don't think anybody was, but you know, who knows what happens if that happens. All I know is that Manning retires a Colt, and he's still here in Indianapolis. He still has everything. Maybe instead of setting at Nuggets games, maybe you see him at Pacers games. Maybe instead of wearing orange all the time in all his commercials, he wears blue. And yeah, and maybe we don't have the curse. We don't have the quarterback curse. So Anthony Richardson's gonna break it this year. Curse is over. But yeah, it's just a personal thing for me.
Understandable, 100% understandable. Like I said, we love Andrew Luck as well. Anthony Richardson. I mean, we had a lot of good QB opportunities coming here, man, and we had a lot of bad ones too. So I'm just happy we're on the good side of this at the moment. We ain't gonna even get started with the QB carousel, but that's all in the past. We're in the future. It's Anthony Richardson season. Let's get it going. If I could change one thing in Colts franchise history, what would it be? I had two options, but I could not linger over this one. I'm going to take you back to 2015 NFL draft. The Colts drafted Philip Dorsett with their first pick at wide receiver. Now, if I could change anything in Colts franchise history, listen to me. I love you, Philip Dorsett, right? You were pretty nice in college, but I'm not drafting you that high. I'm sorry, I'm just not. There were so many things, so many players drafted after him. I can't even fathom. But I know off the top of my head, Tyler Lockett was one of them, and Landon Collins was one of them as well from Alabama. So those are two options that I would have loved to pick over Philip Dorsett for sure.
Landon Collins was like the shoe in for the Colts. Like everybody had the Colts taking Landon Collins in that draft because they had such a need at safety, and he was one of the best players in the draft, and he fell, and he's sitting you sitting right there, and yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good what if.
That is the biggest what if, man. That was like, what if we would have had Landon Collins in the coach jersey? I don't know, man. Our success probably would have been at a higher rate because we got a wide receiver that was pretty much a special teamer at this point. When we drafted him, everybody was like, huh? Like,
By the
Philip
way,
Dorsett?
don't get it twisted though. That is Super Bowl champion Philip Dorsett. Put some respect
Yes,
on his name. Super Bowl champion
Super Bowl
Philip Dorsett.
champion Philip Dorsett. Yes, we we will not forget you, Philip. We love you and respect you, the effort you put in your game. You do have a ring under your name as well, so we will pay respects to you, Philip Dorsett. But this what if scenario, listen to me. You will not be on my roster at the draft on draft night. If I'm circling my big board and see Landon Collins there, I'm taking Landon Collins or Tyler Lockett, hands down. But he is a Super Bowl champion. It is what it is at the end of the day. The other what if was never getting Trent Richardson. That was another what if scenario. Um,
Yeah, but
that
look, that's what I figured. I figured somebody would come up with a Trent Richardson thing. That is 100% hindsight's 2020. Because I remember after that trade hit, it was well, yeah, it was a year after I graduated college, and I ran out in the middle of the street celebrating that trade. So everybody I know was hyped. It was such a good deal. Everybody was so excited. Um, I mean, and that was before the whole like you don't take a running back with a first round pick. Like Trent Richardson, at that moment in time, everybody thought like this is the piece. Excuse me, walking on the side of the road here, but like that's the missing piece to surround Andrew Luck with a guy that's going to average 1,200 yards and 10 plus touchdowns every year. And yeah, it just never worked out. But to be fair, Cleveland also screwed that up because they drafted Johnny Manziel with that pick. And it's the rare like lose trade for everyone. Everybody lost. Nobody won in that deal.
yeah, it that definitely was a loss trade. And when you run an organization, I guess you're gonna have a lot of opportunities to just slip under your hands, and that was one of them for both of those teams. Um, Trent Richardson, I guess he was the Derrick Henry of his time. But he just didn't pan out. And I remember we both met him at the Senior Bowl, and I was like, no way, that's Trent Richardson right there. That's Trent Richardson, and he was out there shaking hands, signing autographs. And if I was a crazy fan, I would have said something like, "You ruined us." Like, how could you not see that open lane? Or, something crazy like
That's one
that.
of like that to me is like one of the craziest like fall offs and like because out of Alabama, I mean, Jesus, dude, this dude was so good. Even when you go back and watch
Freak
the
of
old
nature.
Alabama stuff now, like that guy is what like everybody thought he was what Derrick Henry is now. Like that's what Derrick Henry became was what everybody thought Trent Richardson was going to be. So can you imagine having Andrew Luck with prime Derrick Henry behind him? Because that's what everybody thought Trent Richardson was. And I still to this day, that's something that'll just never make sense to me. Is watching Trent Richardson in college, and I get Alabama has really good offensive line and all that, but I mean this dude was making dudes miss, running over people, hitting lanes hard. Like his vision was there. He had everything. And for some reason, whatever he got in the NFL, it just never manifested. And I just still don't understand how. But, you know, Trey Richardson, hell of a college player, probably one of the greatest running backs in college history.
Absolutely. If it was up to me, I'd still take Son Alexander if we just talking Alabama. But, it is what it is. He definitely was a college freak of nature. I will be using him on college football when it drops. But that is another conversation for today, for another day. Um, the last topic we could talk about that's going to be very interesting is one of your favorite Colts moments in history. So I know we all have a few. I have a few off the top of my dome. I can go 1A, 1B. 1A is the Monday Night Football Colts versus Dolphins. One of my favorite games I've ever watched. Starting off the gate at the beginning, hitting Dallas Clark wide open down the middle of the field. It was a monumental moment. It was the game I loved and I could vividly remember as a Colts fan. But my ultimate memory is the Houston Texans versus the Indianapolis Colts wild card game 2018. Definitely was a game that was something. This was a AFC South rivalry game, and I don't think y'all understand the levels that was in this game. We've seen T.Y. Hilton look like wide receiver one straight out the gate, opening drive. T.Y. Hilton and Andrew Luck literally dissected that defense. And it's not just any defense. This Houston Texans defense was loaded. This was prime J.J. Watt, the safety room, the linebacker. This team was loaded on both sides of the field. And they made it look so easy. And this was a very good year for Houston as well. But this Colts team was out there balling. Like T.Y. Hilton was going crazy. We seen Al Qadim Muhammad go crazy off a big play. We
Eric
seen
Ebron
Marlon
caught a
Mack.
touchdown in that game.
Yes, he caught a touchdown in it. I think that was the first half as well. Marlon Mack was looking good. This was prime Marlon Mack when we was like, oh, this is running back one for sure. But all of these guys was balling, man. Like I said, like this team was so good, and that game against Houston, even though I would also mention this, the refs spotted Houston 7 points because he fumbled on that pylon. But this is a conversation we could talk about in another time. I will post the clip, but he definitely fumbled on the pylon. So they felt so bad about Houston at home. So he's like, you know what? Let's just spot him 7 points. And I remember T.Y. Hill when he was driving down the field. They said there's something about Houston that this guy just goes crazy. And T.Y. Hill was just dogging him the whole game. But in the second half, he struggled, but he turned up in late in the fourth as well. But that game was sure one of my favorite games of all time. Was that wild card game against the Houston Texans? That team had prime Hopkins, prime Watson, the running back room was good. They had Lamar Miller, I think, at running back. That team was really, really good. But the Colts just wanted it more, and it just shows you. We had Frank Wright as our head coach, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys don't remember, but that's just another conversation for another day. But it was a good game, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm actually a little disappointed in the Houston Texans. Their social media team on Twitter. This last weekend was Father's Day, and they didn't wish T.Y. Hilton a happy Father's Day. And I just thought that was kind of disrespectful of them to just ignore their
Very
daddy like that.
disrespectful.
But yeah, that's a heck of a game, man. Especially too that offensive line that year with Andrew Luck, man, just beautiful, beautiful to behold.
Loved it.
And that's really too like you can really kind of see what Luck was capable of, going into that year because he finally had a line behind him, and it just heck of a run. That team was one of my favorite Colts teams ever. Was that 2018 squad? Um, so mine is probably gonna be the same as for a lot of people. It's not the Super Bowl, but it's the game that got us there, and it's finally breaking through the New England playoff ceiling, and I can still hear the call. Marlins got it. We're going to the Super Bowl. Marlon Jackson intercepting Tom Brady to end that game. They come back from like 20, it was 24-3, I think. They come back in the second half, win the game. I watched that game live, and at halftime, I honestly contemplated turning it off because you got to understand at that point. So I'm like, I'm years and years into being a Colts fan, at that point, and I've seen so many playoff, just call a spade, like a choke job, basically. I've seen so many Colts playoff choke jobs where they were, when we went so many years. I mean, 12 wins, 13 wins, 14 wins, go 14-2, losing the first round of the playoffs. Like, it's so disheartening. And for the longest time, I actually hated Phillip Rivers because those Chargers teams knocked the Colts out of the playoffs multiple times there with Phillip Rivers. I couldn't stand Phillip Rivers because he would, Colts would win 13, 14
Me neither.
games. They'd play the Chargers in the playoffs. We'd get knocked out, and Phillip Rivers would be mouthing off on the sideline. You see him just mocking you. And I couldn't stand Phillip Rivers. Luckily, now he's become one of my favorite players in
That
football
was the
history.
Darius Crowell's game when he turned into Barry Sanders.
Yeah, like he's one of those guys that like you hate him when he's on the other team, but whenever he's on your team, and really he only played for two teams. There's only two teams in the league that can say this. Whenever he's on your team, you love the man more than anybody thought possible. I hate that year was a COVID year, so nobody could experience Phillip Rivers. But man, like, love that dude. But anyway, back to the topic on hand. Is Marlon Jackson intercepting Tom Brady to end that game and send us to the Super Bowl. That game, I knew going into it, that game was the Super Bowl. Whoever won that game was going to win the Super Bowl. Um, and yeah, just I honestly contemplated turning the game off. I was so angry. It's like, here we go again, 24-3 at halftime to go to the Super Bowl. Manning was playing like junk again in the playoffs. I had it. I was done. And my mom told me, we're sitting there in the living room. My mom said, you've come this far. You've got so many years. She's like, don't give up now. Just, there's still time. Don't give up. My mother told me that. I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll give them this one half. But if they don't win this game, I'm done. They came back and won it, and to me, that's the greatest game in Colts history to me. Even over the Super Bowl, even over luck against Kansas City in the playoffs back in 2014 or whenever that was, whenever he did the Superman dive. Um, that to me is the greatest Colts game in history, and not only was it getting to the Super Bowl, but beating Tom Brady and the Patriots to do it, and coming back from that big of a deficit, as yeah, I still to this day, and if you haven't seen it, if you're still young, you haven't seen it, it's actually on YouTube. You can actually go. It's on the NFL YouTube. You can pull up Colts vs Patriots 2000. It was 06, 07, 06, I think. It was 2007. Um, pull up Colts Patriots 07 AFC Championship game. Watch the game, and you'll watch the first half. You'll be angry. And if you want to skip the first half, you can also skip the first half. I'm not gonna.
No,
I'm not gonna
no,
tell
don't
you not
skip
to.
it. Watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fault you for skipping the first half. But man, it's the best. I love it. It doesn't get any better than Marlon Jackson intercepting Tom Brady and Marlins got it. We're going to the Super Bowl. Like I'll know, it rings in my head for years. Love it.
It's an awesome moment, man. Your team going to the Super Bowl. A lot of fans don't have that chance. A lot of fans don't have that opportunity. I think we got to be
Yeah,
thankful.
yeah. People take that. I mean, everybody takes that whole run for granted. Of just how dominant this Colts team was, and really, like New England, kind of set the high expectations of Super Bowls because, like, what New England did, what Kansas City is doing now, that's not normal. Like that's that's not normal. It used to be every other year we get a different Super Bowl champion in the NFL. There used to be so much parity. These teams reeling off, you know, six, titles and three or four titles in a 5 year span, like what Kansas City is doing. That's not normal. So, yeah, that a lot of people, including myself, I'll even admit I was one of them. Like we all took that for granted. I mean, I never celebrated an AFC South division title. Never celebrated it because that was the like that's the lowest expectation we have. Is I go into the year and I'm like, well, we're going to win the AFC South. So now it becomes, can we get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl? I know we're winning 12 games, at least minimum 12 games, you know, and you could very well end up never seeing that again. We might never see that type of a run from a Colts team again. Or you could, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, you could end up like a Titans fan and your team's never won a Super Bowl. Or a
A yard
Texans
short.
fan. Yeah, or a Texans fan. Your team's never even been a Super Bowl. Or a Jaguars fan. Your team's never even, barely even been in the playoffs. So, I mean, you could be like the rest of the AFC South and just have absolutely nothing to show for anything. Uh, so I think we need to do a deep dive one day. We need to go back through that era and we need to really sit down and appreciate what we all got to witness or what a lot of us got to witness because it was special. And I miss that era because not only, was I, a teenager becoming a young adult going into my 20s during all that. Um, but, some real formative years for me whenever you're like, you know, whenever you're trying to find out who you are, what you love, and everything. And I'm so lucky. I think a lot of the passion I have for the sport of football came because I was, at that age going through some of the best football that's ever been played, and I got to watch it on a weekly basis. During football season every week. Um, yeah, until the playoffs. A lot of the times I would get angry during the playoffs because of Philip Rivers, but it doesn't get any better than that.
It doesn't, man. And I agree. If you're definitely, a newcomer to Colts fans, Colts organization, and you missed out on a lot of key moments, there are a lot of good years of football in the past. Like just look at we had Peyton Manning. I don't think people understand. Like Peyton Manning in his prime was him and Marvin Harrison. That what was it, 2004 when he had like 49 touchdowns or something? That was an awesome year. Yeah.
He did, and I will still go to my grave saying that's the greatest season that's ever been played by a quarterback in history. Because a
Amen.
lot of people look at the stats and they're like, "Oh, well, Patrick Mahomes threw 50, Brady threw this, even Manning threw 55 in Denver." For people that lived
They
it
forget about
and
that too.
watched it, no, Manning was benched a lot of fourth quarters. Like he threw 49. He did not play 16 full games. He probably set out at least two full games that season because they were just, I mean, absolutely murdering people. Going, I mean, it'd be the third quarter, we'd be up by four touchdowns, and so Tony Dungy, would pull him, or well, yeah, it was Dungy at the time. Um, Tony Dungy would pull him, and he wouldn't even play the whole fourth quarter in some of those games. And I think if he would have played every single snap that entire season, I think he would have got close to 60. I truly, honestly
I
believe that.
agree.
And to me, that's the great his '04 season. No matter what metrics or spreadsheets or Excel or whatever tells you, and all these made up numbers, that's the greatest quarterback season that's ever been played in the history of football. It's Peyton Manning of 2004.
Yeah, that's the true definition of making it look easy. If you guys don't understand, just go watch any game in 2004. Any game. I will beg you, any game. He's just going to get on the field and throw a touchdown. It's just,
Yeah, I mean,
it was
yeah,
crazy.
it was insane. I mean, like what you had, like you said, you had Marvin, Reggie
Hmm.
Wayne was finally hitting. I think that was going into his third season,
Right.
so he was hitting that year three wide receiver jump where he like took
Hmm.
off to like elite level. And you had Brandon Stokely in the slot. Then you had Dallas Carr at tight end. You had Tony Hugo there at left tackle, man in left tackle. Like, I mean, that whole offense was just loaded. And even during that time, you had Dwight Freeney, who was just a demon. Um, Robert Mathis wasn't even really on the field that year. I don't think Robert Mathis was drafted until the year after that. But yeah, it was just one of the most dominant seasons, one of the most fun seasons to watch. And then they lost in the damn playoffs.
Hey man, it happens.
It's a
It
shame.
happens.
Every year, every except '06 and
Except
in
'06, we
'09
had greatness waiting for us. We just didn't know it yet.
in '09 2009 they went to the Super Bowl, which what
We don't want to talk about that.
you still went to the Super Bowl. Like everybody's like, oh man, we lost the Super Bowl. How many
It was
Colts
bad.
fans would kill to make the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah.
Maybe
Imagine the
not
fans
even
that
win
came
it.
after 2009. They haven't even seen it. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, you didn't get to witness it, so maybe we should. So maybe we should do like a deep dive into those mid 2000 Colts teams at some point.
Oh yeah, we got to get Cole's film room here too. I know y'all go crazy watching that stuff, especially 2004. But whenever we hit our lows, we just go back to 2004 and just smile because it's just nothing but great content in that year. I love that year very dearly. I wasn't that old, but you can watch it. It's on YouTube. All the games is on YouTube. I think it's like NFL Classics or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if they've got every single game from that season, but I know there's quite a few of them. And if you can ever find a game, the best thing to do is find a game that has the full commercials in it. Those commercials back then in '04
Oh, the
never be
nostalgia.
beat, man. Those like '90s, '80s, '90s, early 2000s commercials doesn't get any better. So if you can find a game that's taped, it's got all the fun commercials on it. That's even better. Uh, because everybody, that's the biggest problem with TV right now. We got
I
robbed
don't watch it.
we got robbed of great commercials.
Yeah, I do not watch TV nowadays. Only for football season or
I don't
basketball.
really well everything's streaming, so I mean I
Yeah.
guess I only watch the only time my TV's ever on is like you said during football season, and the rest of the time I'm actually either playing a game or doing working out or doing something out here, or I've got film on. I've got football film on the TV, so I don't really watch a lot of TV, but uh, my wife watches Netflix and Disney Plus and all that. We have uh, no good commercials. Every time I walk into the living room, and it's just an ad, which is, I mean, technically is a commercial an ad, yes, but it's not the same. Just like I said, go watch those old commercials, and there's sometimes even on YouTube, I'll pull up like nostalgic commercials. I just sit there and watch commercials from whenever I grew up, and you just see things that unlocks core memories. We unlocked a core memory yesterday. Uh, this might be too old for you even. Do you remember Timmy the Tooth? Have you ever heard of Timmy the Tooth?
Timmy Turner,
Okay.
Fairly Odd Parents. That's
Well,
it.
back in the early 90s, uh, there was a show called Timmy the Tooth about this tooth, obviously. And he had, like a dog that was like a toothbrush. And his like arch nemesis was like the cavity or whatever. Um, and it came up on like her TikTok or something. She's like, her grandfather was a dentist for years and years, and she said, "Oh, my granddad used to make me watch this when I was a kid." And I was like, "Man, I remember. Like, I used to watch this. I had that on VHS. Timmy the Tooth Adventures on VHS, and VHS is like a big big tape for those of
Yes,
you watching that
I
don't
had
know.
VHS. I'm aware.
Yeah,
I know what
okay.
that is.
Well, I know
We're on the
some
same
viewers
page.
might not know what a VHS is, but uh, I had Timmy the Tooth on VHS, so it unlocked a core memory. That's what a lot of the times watching these commercials will do. You'll see commercials for these old toys, and I'm like, man, I always wanted one of those. I never got it.
I always want to be like Mike too, but you know.
Yeah, it never happened for me.
But in honor
Never
of
happened.
Throwback Thursday, there was a tweet. Shout out to our social media account. A tweet of throwback players for Colts history. There was a few names that I've seen that I happened to laugh. You guys didn't mention it. If you guys are listening on via podcast, I'm gonna go off the names that were mentioned from social media. So the first name was Griff Whalen. A lot of people know who Griff Whalen is, of course. Shout out to the legend Griff Whalen, number 17. Um, there was another one, Donnie Avery, Curtis Painter. We all know who Curtis Painter is. I think our social media account looks like him, the guy that runs the account. But it is
I
at the
went
end of
to
the
a,
day.
Colts game again where Curtis Painter was playing quarterback. I actually went to a game that season.
Ew.
Um, yeah, not a great year. Not a great year. But indirectly, it was a great year because that season led to us getting Andrew Luck.
Yes.
Suck
You know,
for luck.
all bad things have a good thing, a good reward at the
It
end.
was between us and the Miami Dolphins. I remember the Dolphins were terrible that year, and everybody was like, "Ah, like who's going to get him? Is it the Dolphin?" Nobody had the Colts in that conversation before the year, and the Colts lost like 11 straight games. Everybody's like, "Well, I think the Colts are, are going to get Andrew Luck," and I started getting so excited, and uh, yeah, it just goes back to my early story about Peyton Manning.
Oh
The
yes.
excitement quickly waned on a cold morning in March.
Mhm.
March was it March 14th? I believe was the day we cut Peyton Manning. That tells you everything you need to know right
Oh
there.
yeah. That's like PTSD.
Yes, I believe it was. I believe it was March 14th, if I'm not mistaken.
It was raining that day.
It was raining on my couch. I'll tell you that. I was in tears, bro. I was losing it. A grown man in his 20s
Oh, I cried a few
sitting
times for Colts related
sitting there
issues.
crying on the couch.
Yeah, I cried a few times. Ain't nothing wrong
Mm,
with that.
mm-mm.
There's a few other names. Darvell Huffman,
Oh
number
wow,
85. Yeah, I know, right?
it's a throwback.
Yeah. Dan Klecko. We remember
Ah,
Dan
Big Dan
Klecko.
Klecko. Yeah,
Oh
I like
yes.
Dan Klecko.
Hunter the punter, number
Ah,
17.
Hunter Smith.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We got Rob Morris here. Shout out
Yeah.
to Rob Morris. Kobe Fleener. I know a lot of people remember Kobe Fleener. Tight end. You got to come on, guys. You guys
Kobe
got to know who
Fleener.
Kobe Fleener. Aaron Moorhead.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Big John Hand. And then we got Anthony Gonzalez. We remember wide receiver. You
Senator
know,
Anthony
yes,
Gonzalez.
Senator Anthony Gonzalez. Yes. Tariq Glenn. We all know who Tariq Glenn. How dare you post that? What's wrong with you?
Oh yeah,
One of the
Tarek Glenn.
best to ever
That's what
do
I
it.
mean. I think I said Tony. I think I said Tony Hugo earlier. It was Tarek
Yeah,
Glenn. I'm
right.
losing my mind.
Hello.
It's
Mr. Ring
it's
of
the
Honor.
heat.
I still got his poster in there.
Yeah, it's the heat, bro. I'm like, so I'm 2.5 miles into this walk right now. It's 90 degrees with like
With humidity, right?
70% humidity. Yeah, yeah. As you see the
Mm-hmm.
little
Y'all can probably
little
hear it
sweat,
if you're listening. You can probably hear it, but he smells like
the
outside.
breathing.
Oh gosh. Samson Satili. I think that's how you
No,
say
we
it.
don't talk about Samson Satelli. Absolutely not.
Somebody put Darius
We're
Butler. How dare you? What's wrong with these people? Why do you want to talk about Samson?
I'm not even gonna bother a response. You've seen that cake I had made.
Oh yeah,
So that's like the
it's a
opposite end
bunch
of the
of
spectrum.
it's a bunch of players like that, you know. A bunch of
Ah,
TCU guys that play on the line, you know. Just happened to
man. Mike
pan out.
McGlynn and Samson Satelli. The reason why Andrew Luck's probably not suited up right now. That's
We
unfair to
traded his
them.
jersey for a suit, man.
Yeah, that's unfair to those guys. But yeah, that's those were some dark days.
Oh yeah. Especially when you're just looking at the ceiling the whole game. The ceiling of the stadium.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Oh,
We love you, Samson. We love you. It's all jokes, man. If you're
to this
listening.
day,
But
AQ Shipley should have started.
amen.
AQ
AQ
Shipley
Shipley
should
was
have been the
dog.
starting center.
Yes, I agree. That was Texas, right?
AQ?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Just make
I
sure.
believe so.
Had to test my knowledge real quick. But that's pretty much going to wrap it up, you guys. We appreciate you for tuning in to this Colts fan memory. A trip down memory lane for Colts fans, man. I know you guys have a lot of memories as well that you would love to share, or maybe we shared some that might have made you hit a moment or a nostalgia act or sorts, made you think about it. It was like, oh, yeah, that did happen. That was one of my moments. But if that was, don't forget to comment. Follow us on all platforms. Appreciate each and every one of your support. We will be back moving forward. We got more videos and content dropping in the future. Training camp is almost here, you guys. It's almost football season. We're about to get some Anthony Gold kick returns, some Josh Down touchdowns, and some 80 Mitchell receptions. All of this is happening in the future. Some Anthony Richardson rushing touchdowns. All of these things. It's right around the corner. You guys just gotta be patient. But we appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. And you guys have a great weekend. Stay cool. It's very hot out there. I know it's very humid in certain areas as well.
It is.
Uh, hey,
It
Landy, you okay
definitely
over there,
is.
buddy?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm good. Look, this is the second cardio session of the day. I've already sat in the sauna today. I did leg day today. So this is nothing. I'll tell you this. As hot as it is, if you go sit in a sauna for about 30 minutes and that
Oh yeah.
if that thing about said a dirty word, that thing's cranked up to about 180, 200 degrees.
Mm.
Uh, feels pretty nice outside right now.
It feels much cooler out there, huh?
Yeah, it feels pretty nice.
Yeah, man. But we appreciate you guys for tuning in for another episode. That is Landon. This is Culture Shock, and we will see you guys next time. Have a great weekend.